Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the final session of the day, and well done for making it thus far. I know, because I know some of the speakers who've been on today, it would have been an exceptional seminar, and I hope we can end up on a high point about the mental recovery in the side of football. And I'll shortly be joined by my head of athletic performance here at Brentford, Chris Haslam. But to give it some context, we're speaking to you on lunchtime on Friday. It's been recorded for you this afternoon because our fixture list is also heavily congested. We've just been told that our game tomorrow, or should have been played tomorrow against Rotherham, has been called off, sadly again due to COVID, so further upheaval in a season of uncertainty. And to give it further context, like many clubs, Brentford Football Club have played 42 games already this season in the past 6 months, in 180 days. That would normally take about 10 months, so we've crammed it all into 6 months so far, yet the majority of the team are still standing. The club's going pretty well, considering everything that's been thrown at us, including COVID. And we're trying to keep the players both fit and also rested in equal measure. So that is my chance to introduce the Director and Head of Athletic Performance, Chris Haslam. Chris, good afternoon.
Thank you.
Another day. Can you sum up, does that sum up this season so far?
Yeah, I think you can't plan this season. I think we always try in the field to plan every single day in the week and the month, but this season you can't. And you have to take it day by day, and every time you make a plan it's scrapped and moved, and so yeah, day by day, small decisions to make the best decision overall, but that's what we try and do every single week.
And as the Head of Athletic Performance, have you learned more about both yourself, your role, and the whole operation during this past 2 years, really?
Yeah, because like we've been going non-stop. I think we had 10 days break between seasons, and it has just been non-stop. And I think we've learnt a lot. You've learnt a lot. The club's learnt a lot. That sometimes your belief systems are challenged and changed, and it's been a good thing. It's been a good opportunity to learn and understand how sometimes our current practices, or what were our current practices, have changed over time. I think we learn a lot more, that the players can do a lot more and they can push themselves. And don't get me wrong, the recovery side, which we'll go into, I'm sure, is a huge part of what we're doing. But yeah, you learn that when you have this fixture dense season, that we can turn the players around quite quickly.
And if I take it back even further, because you and I are sat here today, we shared the disappointment of Wembley and the playoffs and not making it into the Premier League. And I think some are surprised we've done so well this season, because we sold a lot of good players last year, Ollie Watkins, Saeed Ben-Rama.
Yeah.
So was part one of the recovery, the wrestling recovery, getting over the end of last season?
Yeah, it was. I think in a good way. We were unsure whether having a short turnaround. So I think like I said, we were off for 10 days. And then it was 2 and a bit weeks until our first competitive game, which was in the Carabao Cup. So we kind of didn't know if it was going to be a good thing to have a short turnaround, or whether to have 6 weeks away from the place as you normally would do. But we've, I think, coming off the back of it now, realised that having that short time to get away, we had 10 days to get out of the system. We came back in, had various meetings and stuff, and we've come back in a good place this year. We've still got 12 games to go, and it's a long way to go, and there'll be many more twists and turns from now until then. But yeah, it's enjoyable for sure.
You work the players hard. Do you have to rest the players equally as hard?
Yeah, and I think that's a big thing. I think as practitioners in sports science, and it would be good to get your take on this as well, but we're very good at training them now. I think we're really good at training them, and I think in terms of recovery and recovery sessions, and I'm sure it's going to be spoken about in the webinar today, that the players know how to complete a recovery session. So we try and do things a little bit differently with how we do our recovery sessions, which I'll go on to later. But I think it's the mental side, which we'll discuss now, is a huge part, and I think it's often missed in trying to understand, because it's quite easy to quantify and measure how well a player is recovered through various measures, from sleep technology and saliva data, which we've done previously before, so not diminishing them for any second, but to try and measure it and understand how someone recovers mentally is a big challenge. And that's why I think this season, more than any season, we've tried to put an extra focus on on that for sure. And I'm not saying we get it right. I'm not saying we get it wrong, but we're putting an emphasis on it to try and improve the players, because, like you said, with the figures there of 42 games in 6 months already, it is a constant turnaround. It is just all about recovery. So if you can try and keep the players mentally refreshed and engaged, then that's a long way of going to the season being successful.
And I know in my 4 years at the club, I've learned an awful lot about your department, about how we work, about the science of training and recovery. And to steal a phrase from what we've all heard the last 12 months, are we led by the science, or do we use the science just to our advantage or to your advantage?
Yeah, I think people are led by science and find out that things are impossible, or believe that things are impossible. But like I said at the start, I think you then have a new challenge, and we've definitely got a new challenge, and you have to work out how to solve the problem and work out the solution, because if you don't, then you'll be unsuccessful. So yeah, I think we use science to a degree. We also use common sense, and you have to use yourself, and you have to use Anna West, who's spoken previously or on the webinar today as well. She's an integral part to the club. You have to use these experts and understand their input, and then bring it all together to try and get the answer to the solution. Because if you lead on one way or go in one direction, you end up coming up with 10 different answers and you can get lost with it. So we try to keep things simple, understand what are the key points of recovery, and that will be sleep, that will be nutrition, and everything around that we do, but we try and have a freshness and keep the players engaged with some of the stuff we do around that as well.
I'll come on to maybe my role with you in a moment, but the one department there you haven't mentioned upon so far really is football. The coaches want their say, and they want their time on the pitch, or we used to have meetings, but in this space we can do now. How do you get the balance right? And I'm going to say this very personally, in my many years now in football, the biggest challenge is getting the relationship right between science, coaching and football. How have you managed to do that in your relationship here with firstly Dean Smith and now with Thomas Frank and the coaching side? You want the players on the pitch as much as possible.
I think you have to start off with asking what they want, because what Thomas wants could be different to what Dean Smith wants, and that'll be applicable to many other managers. So you have to understand what they want first and foremost. And like you said, they'll probably want their players on the pitch every single day, and that's what we strive to achieve. So it is a balancing act. It is a challenge, and it's something which we have to concentrate on. And I think you have to build a relationship with the coaches as well, and explain to them that we believe this is the best thing for a player or the group of players for this stage of the season, or for this day, whatever it might be. So I think if you're transparent and open with them, I think it goes a long way of building their trust. Because like I said, no one, I think maybe previously in sports science, we were always trying to hold players back. We as a club, and as you know, we try and push the players to do as much as they possibly can. Like I said, we don't always get it right, but it's something we believe in, and more times than not, they actually can do a lot more than you think when you give them that opportunity.
Would it be fair to say that this still isn't the most exact science in what we're trying to achieve?
No, it's far from it, and I think if anyone tries to say it's an exact science and through various measuring tools and everything like that, and has a perfect answer, in my opinion, they're lying, because it's not a perfect science. There's no way you can have a perfect science. You can build a good argument, and that's why you take certain measures, and that's why you speak to players, and you start to build a picture of where they are. And we use training load as a big, or training load or player load as a big point, and understanding how players are doing. So that's what we believe in, and I think if you get the basics right, as I said before, you can go a long way of being successful. I think when you start to add more layers to it, it becomes more complex and it just becomes more confusing. So definitely simplicity is a key. That's what we believe in.
I think that I will start to bring in my role with you then in a moment, if I may, because we do try and keep we try to keep it as simple as possible, and is that quite hard at times because you think it should be more complicated than perhaps it is?
Yeah, I agree, and I think you got a good line from Dean Smith. I don't know if you want to share it, but it's people sometimes are trying to act busy and non-stop and trying to find their value, and I think we're lucky at Brentford because everyone is valued for sure. Everyone gets on with their job, and people aren't on top of each other to try and find mistakes or anything like that. So that's where we're fortunate.
I can say, after 4 years here, no one has ever tracked me to do my job. They've allowed me to do my job, and when I was first interviewed by you, I had 4 interviews to arrive at Brentford, with the 2 sporting directors, yourself, and then Dean Smith. I think also we speak very fondly of our ex-players and managers who go on to. We were very proud to sell our first players to the Premier League, for example, weren't we? With Ian Morpie and Chris Mepham, and thrilled when Dean got the job, which enables Thomas to come in with two different styles. I think that the line you're referring to is one morning in the pavilion here, when we were having a difficult start of the season, he just asked every member of staff to do their job and not justify their job, because I think sometimes in recovery, and I've discussed this, you can do your job and show you're doing it because look, I've done all the right recovery tools, but that might not be the right thing to do. Yeah,
definitely, and that's the thing. So we so on a typical recovery day, so if we played on a Saturday, we're in on a Sunday because we got a match on a Tuesday night, for example. We try and give a lot of ownership to the players. So the days for me where you get a player in and you get a group of players in and they go through 4 or 5 stations and they're sitting on the bike for 20 minutes, they're doing a foam rolling session, they're seeing a medical staff and almost have to flow through this pretty rigid, regimented pathway. We've moved away from that now because, like you said, with the amount of fixtures and games, if you're doing that every single week or twice a week at times, it becomes boring, it becomes monotonous. So we give the players a lot more ownership now, whereby we give the players a recovery sheet, and we give them about 20 different ways to optimally recover, in our opinion. Now, it's definitely not a one size fits all because every single person, every single player is different. So some players like to sit on the bike for 20 minutes, that's their benefit. Some like to play football, tennis. So we try and give them, like I said, the ownership to make their informed decisions to recover the best. And ultimately what they have to try and do at the end of the day is achieve their point score of whatever it might be, arbitrary figures at 40 points. That means if they've had 9 hours sleep, that's worth 5 points. If they get a good breakfast, good lunch, that's another 5 points. We chuck some funny, crazy things in there as well, just so they keep them laughing and engaged. And like we'll speak about as well, but on recovery days, the players will play football, tennis. The players will play basketball. We sometimes play Jenga. It's just to keep them doing stuff differently, so it actually takes their mind away from the match, whether you've won, lost or drawn the day before. We kind of want to get this impression that if anyone walks into the training ground, walks into our gym, they don't know what the outcome was, because we want the players to be consistent in their behaviours. So we don't want to be too high if we won the game, or we don't want it to be too low. So as long as they come in and they're consistent and they do the right things, that's what we truly believe is important for them over the season.
I think, again, we've discussed it on so many occasions. I think sometimes the biggest threat to football is boredom.
Yeah.
Because it can get incredibly repetitive.
Yeah.
Now, if we all went to work every day and did exactly the same thing we do, I think we get bored. And I spoke to the managers, we both had it, both managers here, saying, if it's just you every day doing the same thing, it gets boring. Are you aware that sometimes players need variety rather than just, I can tick another box?
Yeah, and we do that from all aspects, and that comes back to the mental recovery. So there are obviously recovery days, but there's also training days, which is still part of the recovery process. So if we're playing on a Saturday, we've got another game on a Tuesday. From that last kick of the game on a Saturday to the first kick of the game on a Tuesday, that's a recovery process. So it is variety. We as soon as they're getting off the pitch, we're trying to get good nutrition into them. Thomas will have a debrief with them, but he's getting information on board to them, but he tries to keep it simple as well, and that's on the training pitch as well. With such short turnarounds, if we start overloading the players with informations and detail, it's the players, first and foremost, don't take the information in, Two, we're just adding extra load and fatiguing them even more. So it is a fine balance of what we're trying to achieve. But I think, yeah, definitely the coaches need to be on board with the amount of information they give to them.
And have you learned to trust your instincts more in the last 18 months through our incredibly long, very high, very disappointing end of the season, and then starting 10 days later? Have you learned to trust just that feel and instinct as an experienced practitioner now?
I think, yes. I think also that like I said, you're never going to get it right all the time, because there's no exact science and there's no perfect textbook to say this is what you do. So what you need to do is you need to make informed decisions, believe in those decisions, execute them, and then believe in it. If you win, lose, draw, whatever, then you can reflect back in over time, but it won't be the outcome of the decisions there and then. So you need to take your decision, believe in it, and then just execute it, because it's such an important thing. If you start doubting yourself in the decisions you take, then that's when it becomes more of a problem than not. So.
I think moving then into the raw mental side of recovery, again, I think you and I have built up a solid working relationship on how to deal with the players and the staff and the coaches. And the word we possibly dislike the most after COVID is fatigue.
Yeah.
And I think you and I now both agree that if we start talking about fatigue, you start thinking about fatigue, and all of a sudden you're tired because you're talking about fatigue. Are we quite careful? Do we manage that side of it well enough, do you think, to make sure players don't think they're fatigued?
Yeah, we haven't overtly said it, but we've almost banned that word, haven't we, at the training ground, because it is. If you walk into a room and you see someone and you say, "Oh, you're looking tired today," if someone said it to you enough times, you start to feel tired. So, yeah, we try, and it's a narrative you create. If you create that, you use the line all the time, which is brilliant. Like, it's fantastic. I mean, these guys grow up in the playground, young kids. All they want to do is play football every single day. Now we've got a season where we're playing football every single day. So that's our narrative. Our narrative is that, yes, we are playing every third day and we're playing 3 games a week, but it's a fantastic opportunity. So that's our narrative of the club, led by you. If our narrative is along the lines, oh, it's a lot of games, it's fatiguing, it's tiring, then of course you're going to start believing that. But if you believe that it's a great opportunity, it's fantastic that we're playing every third day, then that's your narrative and that's your thought process.
I think the players are generally enjoying it too.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I've got to be very careful here, because I deliberately don't have a laptop here at the moment. I've got one in the bag, but it doesn't come out very often because there's a lot of laptops here.
Yeah.
And I think I try, and complementing your work, I try to use my eyes and the conversations I hear, the ones you may not be able to have because other work is going on. But I think the players are actually really enjoying the challenge of training, playing, and then working out the best way of recovery.
Yeah, like we spoke about it earlier. I mean, the fancy bits and tools because of COVID have disappeared. So ice baths are reduced and limited. Cryo chambers are like using pools and everything like that. You have to rethink your processes and how to get the players recovery, and that's where it goes back to basics. Are they eating well after a game? Are they sleeping well after a game? Are they eating well the next day? And then what active recovery are they doing in that day? They're the kind of the 4 things we all focus on, and then it's like, how do we keep them engaged and laughing and joking? And we've got so many good clips where the players are laughing, joking, playing fun games which they make up themselves, and that's what we want to create on those recovery days and around training ground every single day, because if they're engaged and they want to be at the training ground, then that's the mental side which ticks every box.
And again, just to help the people listening, I think you and I have had many discussions around what I think works, what you think works, and we find a way to engage the players. The word I use a lot is playfulness, which I don't see in too many scientific journals.
No.
And I learned that A, through my background in other sports, and secondly from a colleague I know called Mick Beale, who's at Glasgow Rangers, and maybe they're about to win their first Scottish title in a while. And he spent a year at Sao Paulo, and he noticed that a huge part of training in Brazilian football was playfulness, to get players engaged, and he's trying to bring that back into Europe. I think at times we can get very functional. When I say we, I think football in general. And we're big believers now in playfulness, and don't be embarrassed about playfulness.
No, 100%. And I think that's the players love competition, the players love playfulness. They like to and that's the best way to win in terms of the mental recovery side. Because if, like you said earlier, if you're doing the same thing every single day, the players know that they come in a certain time and they've got a meeting at a certain time, and they go out and train and do the same thing, and then they disappear. It becomes draining. So if you can keep things engaging, if you can mix the training sessions up, if you can mix their prep sessions up, if you can mix their recovery days up, it goes a long way on keeping them refreshed.
Do you ever change your mind, literally, when you get to training? You've got to, because we like to have a plan.
Yeah.
I think I think most managers in Football League clubs are well run. They're trying to do the right things. We like to have a plan. We're a very process-driven club.
Yeah.
But are we, and do you and I, do we change our minds now and again?
Yeah, I think so for sure. And certain days you come in and you've got a plan, and then you walk in and you get a feel from the players, and that's why it's so important. And I know some clubs still do it, and I understand why, but they'll do a monitoring tool to get the players' feedback on how they feel. We believe massively at the club, go and see the players, go and speak to the players, go and engage and put yourself in certain positions where you're going to engage in conversation to get a feel and a sense of how they are, because they might be in a great place. You might have lost a game, but they're in a really good place. You don't actually need to do too much. You might also think that you've won a game and they're a little bit tired, and you need to uplift them. So you need to be reactive to what the mood is like, and the only way you get a good understanding of what the mood of the players is like, and is by having those small conversations and looking them in the eye and saying morning to them. So yeah, I definitely believe that you need to be reactive, especially this season.
Do you think that when I say this, I could be leading to an answer here, so I shan't apologise in advance, but I can actually come to you on arrival. I'm in once a week, roughly, aren't I?
Yeah.
And I'm allowed to bring my feel and instincts to your department. Would that be fair enough to say?
Without question. And I think we because, especially when that's why we would love to have you in more. But then if you came in every single day, we would lose your impact as well, because you come in and you almost sense the group, and you can walk into a room and you can be here for 5 minutes and you know where the training ground is. Now if you come in, there's so many emotions because you've travelled the night before, you've won a game, you lost a game. We all move on this kind of emotional roller coaster where you almost view things from afar, come in, get the feeling, and can be that sounding board to myself and Thomas and the players, and that's where you really thrive in your work.
And that leads me into the big, most contentious one of all, which is days off.
Mm-hmm.
Days away from the training ground,
Yep.
from the routine, from the
Yep.
repetition. And many of our conversations, indeed with the coaching staff, take place.
Yeah.
We've had another one today because the game was suddenly called off halfway through training.
Yeah.
Whistle blows, we're told, game off, and you
Yeah.
change again. Do you think we're getting better at saying, leave them alone, stay at home? Because they can now run their own lives, can't they?
Yeah. We accidentally came across some research. I'll be saying we were too clever otherwise if we said we planned it. But we about 3 years ago we came across some research where we looked at saliva data on players, so IgA and cortisol levels. We ran it for a season, and we looked at basically the influence of having a day off versus the influence of coming into and how they recovered from a hormonal response. We found that the players recovered so much better if they actually came into the training ground, and when they had a day off, they were actually pretty rubbish at recovering. Now there's many factors in terms of they probably stay up later, they don't eat as well, they're not as active, they're quite sedentary when they've got a day away from the place. Whereas if they come in and they recover, good nutrition, there's a set time they need to be in, they keep a bit of a routine and structure to their day. So the most obvious thing would have been to say, well, we need to come in after every single game and come in and recover. But if you do that, and especially this season, there won't be a single day off ever. So we took that information, and instead of saying, let's come in every single match day +1, let's educate the players on how to recover better. So we educate them now, and every time we give them a day off, I'll still send a message out to them all, give them some reminders and pointers to make sure that they are sticking to their routine. They're not going to bed too late. They are recovering well or doing something active. And that's why it goes back to the sheets which we give the players. We give them the players the sheets. They can choose 4 things to recover well and to come back into the next day in a better place physically, but mentally they're in such a much better place because our training ground isn't too.
It's not Venice, is it?
No,
it's not Venice.
It's not incredible. So it is. It's not the best place to come every single day. So getting away, spending time with family, seeing. I know it is difficult. You can't see friends at the moment, but that sort of thing is so important. And when it's non-COVID times, we always used to encourage players to go out for dinner after games and things like that because they can immediately try and switch off from the game because ultimately the game is gone. So whether you've won, lost, drawn, the game is finished. The only thing you can do now is affect what you do to recover for that next game. So we try and get the players to go out for some meals, see family, switch off from the game as soon as they can because if they are a footballer every single minute, every single day, it becomes draining, especially as we've been going for almost 2 years. So I do believe you need to. It would be wrong just to leave players to have a day off completely, and just leave them to their own devices because we've got a young squad and they'll make bad decisions at times. So you have to help them and educate them, but then trust them and empower them. That's the big thing we do. So yeah, they will make some mistakes at times, but if they learn quickly, then in their careers they'll be so much better. So I think this season as well, we've had a game on a Saturday. On the Thursday, even if we played on the Wednesday, we've given them a day off because they need to switch off from the place. And if they come in, see my face, see your face, see Thomas's face to do another debrief, it's not going to be beneficial. And that's why mentally, it might not be the best thing physically, maybe not, but mentally it's the best thing for them to keep away.
Do you think, as I talk to you now, it's all helping me understand the role even better? Do you think the players have learned to trust us more this season?
Yeah, I think so. And maybe it's luck, or maybe but we agree or disagree. We've got the staff from medical to analysis to coaching to performance staff. They've got a good relationship with the players, and I don't think they ever feel like they need to hide anything, and they'll always be honest with us. And I think you have to build that trust with them, and definitely this season. We'll meet with the players and we'll have a leadership group, but we'll speak to them and explain our reasons why we're doing certain things, why we're coming in on a certain day, why we're having a certain day off. And that's, I think, that relationship. I think previously, or at many clubs, it might just be the staff and the players, but we try and get everyone together to make the right decisions because what we as coaching staff, performance staff might think is the best, they might think is the worst idea ever. So if you start doing what you think is best and what they think is worst, then you're just going to bang heads together. So if you can explain what you're trying to do, what you're trying to achieve, they might have normally they've got the better answers than we have, but they've got answers and questions, and then we find the middle ground, and that's what we try and do.
They have got good answers, haven't they?
Yeah.
They've got they're sharp, aren't they?
Yeah.
The current group of players, and maybe we're very lucky, they're very sharp now, aren't they, on the scientific side of football?
Yeah, they're almost better than myself because they understand, they know once they play the game how they feel. And I think sometimes as practitioners we almost try, but this is how you should be feeling, this is what you need to do. But that's where you have to put them, go back to them and empower them and trust them that with our help, but they need to be accountable for it. We need to turn them around as quickly as possible to get them in the best possible place, but it's down to them. And I think if we ever try and take the full responsibility, it's completely wrong.
And do you think we've reached the stage, or reaching the stage, where players can genuinely challenge us and they say, why are we doing this? We don't frown upon that when players not take us on, but they say, can you just explain why we're doing this?
Yeah, no, completely, and it's such a powerful thing we can do because, like I said, they're intelligent and they're bright, and if they ever feel we're doing something wrong, they'll ask a question, and if we can encourage them to do that, we'll answer better problems in the right way. And like I said, going back to the solutions, we're trying to find the solutions in this COVID puzzle this season for sure. And if we can work as a team, and that's not just staff, it's staff and players, then we'll hopefully get where we want to be.
And if I can say this also, the staff got to keep themselves mentally fresh too, haven't they, through a 2-year process, because you haven't seen family and friends either. And I know that everyone's been in their own little tiny bubble, but is it important to keep the staff fresh as well?
Yeah, without doubt, and it is difficult because there's you are in this constant restriction with COVID, but it goes back to the narrative. When we speak about narrative, if you want it to be a problem, and if you believe it's a problem, then of course it's going to be a problem. If you see it as a challenge and take it in, right, let's find the solutions on it, then the narrative is positive. So we sat down last week and we almost said, what are the benefits of COVID? And we came out with a list of about 10 things, which has been positive, which has changed our practices, and that's changed from the length of the meeting time, how we recover on certain days. Loads of factors which previously would have thought, well, we would never change that. We've had to change it, but we've actually seen the benefit from it. So,
and we've had 2 or 3 layoffs over the course of COVID, and you couldn't even call it in between seasons because it was so short. But during the first, if we can take it back, during the first ever long layoff and lockdown, the players came back we hadn't seen them for, I can't recall,
7 or 8 weeks.
7 or 8 weeks. I didn't see them for 4 months, but you didn't see them 7 or 8 weeks. They came back in remarkable condition.
Yeah, and it goes back down to trust. I mean, once again, we might be lucky, but you need to give them the information. You need to explain and give them the context, and then it's down to them. And like I said, we might be lucky, and maybe what we apply here doesn't work at another club. But the players, they came back flying and ready to attack. But I think they understand that we're all on the same page and what we're trying to achieve. So, without question, that trust again in the players is so important.
And the players are beginning to, when I say that no one's enjoying this, because it's just not enjoyable, and we can't have those cups of tea, the boot room as I call it, because I'm of a certain vintage. I remember boot rooms, but we're still trying to keep the players talking, aren't we? And we're trying to devise ways to keep the players together as a group and discussing football, discussing games, discussing recovery, discussing every aspect, including the mental side of football.
Yeah, exactly, and it is hard because we can't spend time together. But that is such an important part of the players. Mental recovery as well. Again, is debriefing between themselves, and sometimes we'll go out onto a training pitch, and training will be very short and brief, but we know it's an outdoor space which we can go and they can play a game of 2 touch, but they can just talk about the game. They can talk about their positioning, and it gives them the opportunity to reflect. So you're just trying to find the different ways for what you're trying to achieve.
I mean, if possible, we always try to get them, dare I say it, outdoors for a few moments. Is that a part of it too? That fresh air, just being out.
Yeah. So we unless a player is injured, we don't employ the kind of match day +2 second day recovery. For many reasons, and I'm not saying that what other clubs do is wrong, but it fits for our club because we've got a younger group of players. But we truly believe, and you push it as well, it's like get the players outside, get some fresh air, and get them moving. Because I think that too many times, and I've seen it at other places before, you try and protect the players so much, and then over time you end up under-training them and over-protecting them. So I definitely believe that get them outside on the match day +2, do an appropriate session, and that comes back down to the trust of the coaches, because the coaches pitch a session perfectly, and it means that we can get them outside, they can have fresh air, they can have a bit of fun, and we can keep them engaged. So that's a big thing we do on a match day +2.
Can I just go almost one of the 2 or 3 final points? Overprotection. When I first joined the club, you asked me to bring my opinions, views, what I thought. Now, I'm not embarrassed to say, like many of the staff here, I haven't played again with elite professional football, so I haven't been in that position. I'd like to think I've been around enough environments to know what can work and what doesn't work. And I said to you, do you think we've ever seen a Thai football team? They might be a bit mentally fatigued, and we agreed. I think we agreed we hadn't, because we watched compared to a game of, I've been in rugby bubbles, and at the end of a game of rugby, they don't celebrate a win because they can barely move. Yet, if we win a penalty shootout, we can sprint 100 metres in 11 seconds. So, do you think we've learned not to overprotect players now and ask them, can we do a bit more?
Yeah, definitely. And like you said there, you've seen other environments where people are getting pulled off the pitch and footballers don't. They are tired, don't get me wrong, but we need to change their expectations, and I think because our culture at the training ground is that we are going to go and train. The first and foremost principle is we're going to train as much as we possibly can, and when people come in, that's the expectation. So if a player has experienced something else in a different environment, they quickly move to the new normal for them, which is getting out and being on the training pitch as much as possible. And like I said, it'd be mad to go outside and play 11v11 every single day. So we do picture sessions, right? But getting them outside and training a bit more, and like we've learned this season, we're playing every third day, and the players are having to produce the same outputs every single game. And at this moment in time, we're in a good place, and hopefully it will continue.
And if I may maybe begin to wind up with my favourite subject of all, because I found my perfect sparring partner here, sadly through COVID, not for the past 12 months, which is Anna West. And I know Anna's spoken this afternoon in this webinar, so we won't have to repeat what she's been going through, but I think it's a wonderful relationship she too has with the players, and indeed hopefully with myself, because I'm nearly obsessed with sleep in terms of mental recovery.
Yeah, I'm sure she's explained it earlier today with what she does, but she's been with us for 4 and a bit years now, and yeah, the impact she has with the players, and it goes back to all the fancy stuff you can do, but sleep you can't get away from, and we don't try and find a quick fix, and I'm sure she'll be explaining this. We know that sleep is not a quick fix with a certain bit of technology or whatever it might be. You have to invest in it, but it goes back down to the players understanding why we're doing it, the context and the benefit. And you ask any player who's worked with Anna, and she's worked with well, pretty much everyone, but the benefits they find is enormous, but you have to dedicate the time into it.
And I think the players also have completely embraced the topic, haven't they? They see it as their most important part of their training now, and I always talk to the players about it, and especially after this schedule when we got back from Norwich at what time? That was quite an early kick-off, but still 11:30, 12 o'clock. You're not going to have the ideal recovery after the midweek game.
And it's finding out the strategies around that, and every single player is different. So we almost try and bespoke their own plan, but it still doesn't get away from the fact that what can you do to optimise your sleep, and that's what we'll do, and that's what she does. But it is the norm in the club. It's something we embrace and engage in every single day. So it's from Thomas Frank, who works with Anna, to the B team players as well. They all engage on some level.
And finally, then we've learnt so much the last 2 years. It has been remarkably challenging, at times tiring.
Yeah.
There aren't any secrets really, are there, in terms of everything we talk about?
No, and maybe people are hoping on the chat and the webinar that there will be some secrets, but there isn't. And I think if anyone said there is some secrets, they're lying, because it is believe in what you believe in, trust what you believe in, and execute that, and that's what we do. Don't get me wrong, we sit down in the club and we devise our philosophy and our strategy. That's something Brentford is good at, but we do that, but it's no different to any other club. We just make sure we try and deliver as well as we can on it. And like going back to the mental recovery is a big part of what we're trying to do this season, because like I said before, as sports scientists, practitioners, performance coaches, whatever, we are very good at trying to put a person into an ice bath or a cryo chamber or in the pool or to do a foam roll. Everyone can do that, but how much time do we invest in how can we mentally refresh him and engage him? So that's what we've tried to do at the club this season.
I think my final point, and if you want to give me some feedback on this, you can for the final answer, is my ambition in football. Obviously we want to be successful. My word, we want to be successful.
Yeah.
You can feel it around the ground, as you can in all football clubs. But we want to get the players to talk, don't we? And talk about themselves, their emotions, and what makes them feel tense, what makes them play well, and we think we've got them talking, haven't we, as a group, in front of staff.
Yeah, well, I think I'll throw the question back. So what's your strategy on how to try and get players to talk?
Oh, if I could answer it there, if you let them come to you with questions, and I think eventually they will always come to you because they're intrigued, they're interested, they are incredibly sharp. I mean, it's hard for me to sort of explain this to people who don't work in football, but footballers are incredibly sharp. They wouldn't be at this level of elite performance if they weren't sharp. And if you get them asking questions about mental recovery, about the cognitive process they go through as a footballer throughout the season, their answers are extraordinary. I mean, I've had a debate this week in a psychology forum about how the psychologists were the experts. I went, you're not. I promise you, you are not the expert. And how many times have I said here, I'm not embarrassing myself on camera, I am the title is sports psychologist, head of athletic performance, but I'm not the expert.
No, I agree.
They teach me everything,
Yeah.
and they've given me more insights into the cognitive functioning. We can put fancy titles on it,
Yeah.
but what they've been through as athletes in the last 2 years, they've given me all the answers.
Yeah.
And I hope you've given them the ability to talk and ask questions and challenge us.
Yeah, without doubt. I think we think we should be the experts. And don't get me wrong, we've studied and we are the facilitators. We need to support them, but they are the experts in it.
Yeah. I think the final thing, we also know, and I won't swear on camera, they're entitled to a few average days as well, aren't they?
Yeah.
Because we haven't all bounced out of bed for the last 2 years, have we?
No, definitely not.
Well, there we are. That is the mental side of recovery. I hope it gives you an insight into how two very different people from different generations work as a head of athletic performance and as, luckily, the consulting sports psychologist. I hope it rounds off a very good day for you with Simon Austin and Training Ground Guru. I can safely say, without prompting, easily the best site for training information. And I hope that rounds off a very, very good day. Thank you very much indeed.